Hi everyone. So welcome to the next vlog. Today we're going to be talking about the homeschool story. So essentially, how did we end up homeschooling? And part of that is to talk about school and how that went for Darian. So I'm just going to look at my notes again to keep myself straight. We put him in school, and I think I've talked about this before, but we put him in school for several different reasons. And I'll just quickly go over it just as a recap. So mainly because I didn't feel like I was qualified to teach. And that will come later in the second part of this as well. But essentially, I knew that I needed help. I wanted him to figure out a way to integrate with the world, even with the struggles that he had. I also wanted him to essentially be pushed, but not too much. He never went to school full time. So we were aware that it was a stress, but we really wanted him to interact with his peers, and it was something that I couldn't replicate at home. There we go. So when he was kindergarten and preschool, there's a lot of play, a lot of fun. And at that point, he was still very malleable. If, he wanted to do something or they were like, let's go this way, there was a lot more freedom in which to do that. And he was more like, oh, okay, let's go and see if we like that. He did still have his good days and bad days, but for the most part, when you're playing and having fun, the worst part was circle time or cleanup time was where he struggled. But for the most part, it was okay. And then in grade 1 and grade 2, so grade 1, essentially, I find, even with my girls, has been a huge transition because you're going from part-time to full-time, and there's significantly less playtime going on. So again, it was one of those things where we're like, okay, well, we'll see how it goes. And it's only casual part-time. But what ended up happening at this school was that they were trying to integrate where the high school and junior high used to be in a different building. They were putting them in the same building. And so there was renovation. So they were being bused to another town next door to this town, and it was one of those things where I wasn't happy about the bus situation, but also in kindergarten there was a room that they could go to if he was being like overloaded sensory wise. They could turn off the lights and they could just veg for a while, and we found that really helpful to him. And in this new temporary building there wasn't that, and so yeah, things would escalate a lot faster. But also when he hit grade 1, I think he was becoming more self-aware, aware of how he was different from other kids, and just trying to figure out what that was about, but also being really, really pushed into doing lots of paperwork and things that he wasn't super excited about. Yeah, it became more and more harder for him, and so we were really searching for different ways to help him deal. How do we get him to talk more fluently with other people and his peers, and how do we deal with the whole facilitated communication thing, which really came up around that time. And what we discovered was we were looking at a talking tablet. And we started this process when he went into grade 2. We really we're tired of meeting those blocks that I talked about earlier. And so I really was like, okay, we've got to get this figured out. And so we looked into talking tablets, and we started the process in September, and people were supposed to be coming from the city to our small town to discuss it with us and figure out what happened, and they didn't end up coming until the following January. And because I've prepared Darian for everything and I had no idea when they were going to suddenly show up, I had been talking to him for a while. And so I was just going to show you, this is one of the pages that I did with Darian. with facilitated communication. And it just says, we're so proud of you, Darian. You're still learning to talk and write. What are you proud of yourself for? And he said, I'm proud of myself because I don't quit trying to speak. Do you believe you can write yourself without mommy's hand? Because we were really trying to get him to do it. He goes, yes, but it makes me scared because what will happen if I can't write? And again, it's that emotional pull where you go, okay, you know what? He's struggling in here to even just try things. And then the computer that's going to help you speak is coming, but very slowly. Sorry, honey. Are you still looking forward to it? And he says, yes. Would you like to start typing to practice? And he says, yes, because when it gets here, I will be ready. So we did things like that just to try and lower his thing. And the turning point came when they showed up. And we can actually pinpoint that because his entire attitude towards school changed completely. And part of the issue is that when I was in the room with the ladies, I'm telling him he's capable of doing this, he's doing these things, and he was doing these things, completely different child from home and from school. And there were really good reasons for it. And then what I didn't know that had happened was they talked about Darian in front of Darian with his aide. And they said, well, he can't do this, he can't do this, he can't do this, and I'm sure there were some he can do this and various other things, but there was a lot of he can't. And it was a turning point in his attitude, and it started getting him very anxious. Things like we would pull out his lunch kit to get him ready for his lunch, ready for school, and he would literally pick it up and hide it and go, no, 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 no. And then he would cry on the way to school. And I'm like, buddy, what's wrong? Everything's okay. It's okay. And it took him about a month and a bit before he was able to tell us that he was struggling in school. Things like, nobody believes that I'm smart or worth the time or worth the effort was the word he used. I'm just shocked to my core. And I was like, oh, buddy, I don't think that's true. And various other things that just, it escalated and escalated. And I talked a little bit about when he was using his aide's hand to write. And even just the way she would say questions. It wasn't in a way, it was kind of like, if you said you want to be a big boy with your mom, and this is what I expect you to do. And that was where he wrote no. And then she said, why not? And he said, you mean. And things like that, where I looked at the situation and said, it's a personality clash. Okay, so I look at regular human interaction and I say, okay, I can have a talking personality or person, me and her have a relationship, and it can break down. We can still have the ability to communicate, but it can break down, and then that friendship is no more. And that can happen. Now add autism and not being able to say things that are in your head just as you're thinking them, and it's magnified. Her personality lent itself to it's my way or the highway, and then add Darian's autism and he goes, no, I'm not doing those things, and it combusted internally. So I wasn't blaming anyone. I just said, Darian actually said, I need a new aide. And we worked with the school and we tried for a month and a half, respectfully and going, this is just the way it is. He's starting to develop an anxiety disorder and I really don't want that for him. We just need the new aide. He's been asking for one of the substitutes. I couldn't understand why. And they kept saying, we'll do whatever is good for the child. Whatever the child needs is what we're going to do. Unfortunately, in this school district, there are so many rules that kind of make that impossible. And eventually they themselves just said, you know what, I think we're at the point where you're going to have to homeschool. So that's it in a nutshell, and I will talk in part 2 about homeschool panic in the next vlog. So thanks for listening. If you have any questions or comments, let me know down below and I will answer them as best I can. Like I said, if I need to, I'll add another one. But yeah, he's okay. He's okay. He's not an anxiety disorder. He doesn't have an anxiety disorder now. So just to end on a happy note. All right. We'll talk to you next time.